have graduations at East River Academy. But nonetheless, an amazing, amazing experience. They did all of the amazing things to get to, I mean, you can imagine the things that they had to go through just to be able to graduate. And so I just want to say that here and applaud them publicly for all of their hard work. And then I want to pass it on to Jesse. Yes, please.
Excuse me for a second. So now live stream wants to work. So we are being live streamed. So everybody wants, I said, let me try again. And without a hitch, now it's on. So okay, perfect. So sorry about that.
So just know you're being recorded. Yes, and for those of you that are following us on Instagram, you will hear some of what I said on Instagram. Because we were meeting with our FLCs yesterday for a second annual enrichment day where they were here at Tweed and they were just having a moment to themselves so that they can rejuvenate and reignite for the next year. And part of that was, let's think about how important this work is, because there are children who are in spaces like East River Academy that I was able to speak with, but I also was able to go home, and they don't get to go home. And so it's really important that we continue to honor the tremendous effort of all of the educators there, the tremendous effort of all of the students that attend, and their accomplishments, and to continue to support our children in our schools so that they can continue to thrive in our spaces. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Jesse, who has more.
Thank you, Christina. And just want to, just re-echo what Dr. Melendez said with regards to just our thankfulness for your work and your support, members of CPAC, as we get to the end of another school calendar year. I just want to let you know how much we admire your dedication and your support of all families throughout the city. It is, I know you work very hard in doing so, and just wanted to underscore what Dr. Melendez said. Also wanted to also share that just with regards to East River Academy, I definitely encourage everyone to look at the Instagram posts that are on there because they're very inspirational. I just wanted to say, to Dr. Melendez, is it's part of her leadership. Ever since she took over phase, she's been very conscious of ensuring that we don't forget about any student, and has developed very strong partnerships with District 79 and District 75. So her attendance and her keynote yesterday was just another example of her commitment and our office's commitment to ensure that all students' voices are heard. So I applaud you, Christina, from what I hear. It was an extraordinary address that you gave yesterday. So I also want to share just a few other updates. This Saturday, we are having our next Big Book Party, June 15th. Part of our overall strategy with regards to NYC Reads is we, as many of you know, and there are participants of our ambassador cohorts here that we've had NYC Reads ambassador cohorts, we had NYC Reads hubs, and we also have book giveaways. So our next Big Book Party is June 15th at the Bronx Library Center on East Kingsbridge Road. I will drop all of this in the chat so that everyone can see, but it is a celebration of literacy and community, and there are going to be books for families. So we really encourage everybody to take part. Also wanted to thank Districts 23 and Districts 11. Our last two town halls of this school calendar year were on District 23 on May 30th. And just this past week on Tuesday, June 11th, we had our final in District 11 with CC11. Both town halls went extraordinarily well. I wanted to thank all of the parents and parent leaders in both of those respective districts. And we look forward to another successful town hall season next year as we start again to plan our town halls for the districts. But I wanted to thank all the districts. I think close to 20 town halls I think we did this year. and really appreciate and admire all of the efforts and support of all of our district leaders in making those town halls successful. This past Tuesday, our office had a convening with faith-based leaders. We have been working very closely with faith-based leaders, wanting to develop collaborations with them, particular around NYC Reads, trying to see if we can establish hubs with, in some faith-based institutions, and working more closely with our community partners, because as we know, working with our students and families is a community effort. It is multiple stakeholders, multiple supports, and our faith-based leaders are a very important part of the community. So we had a very good conversation with them this past Tuesday, and looking to explore more ways that we can collaborate. Dr. Melendez mentioned yesterday's FLC, FSC Enrichment Day at Tweed. Definitely, another one of our partners that we work very closely with and are essential in being able to provide our support to our families. So it was definitely a very good day, in learning a broad range of emotional skills to provide a safe space to emotionally connect and support with one another. This work, as we know, is very personal to all of us. It can be very, emotionally, challenging at times because some of the things that we witness and see and support our families with. So to have a day where we focus on emotional health and wellness is exceedingly important. So we can't say enough about our FLCs and FSCs and look forward to our continued work with them. And last two things are we've concluded a series of professional developments that were based on financial literacy. And I wanted to take a moment to also thank the Citywide Council on High Schools for their collaboration. We had a financial literacy professional development focused on high school students. And we had, I believe, a couple of sessions where we had high school students participate in learning more about financial literacy. We also had our general sessions on financial literacy as well, but wanted to give a special thanks to the Citywide Council on High Schools for their support in the financial literacy that was focused on our high school students. And lastly, just an acknowledgement of this past June 1st that we had our ambassador graduation. So as we mentioned, we've had several NYC Reads ambassador cohorts that we went through the science of reading, a 10-week course in the science of reading. Some of our ambassadors are on this meeting right now, and it was wonderful. And it went, very, very well. And we wanted just to once again congratulate our ambassadors, and we look forward to the work ahead. And with that said, I believe, Christina, I think that was everything.
Yes, thank you, co-chairs, for giving us the floor. And we put our Instagram on there because all of these stories are been personified in our Instagram.
Awesome, thank you. We're going to move on to One Green Apple. We have Joe Fratoni and Daniel Bias to present on their mission. Again, we had them maybe 2 school years ago or last school year. They're coming to give us some updates. So Joe, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'm changing the share. Does everyone see the slide, advanced family engagement in our schools?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, technology these days. Thanks, Shirley. We appreciate the opportunity to speak with you this morning. As some of you may remember, we initially presented to CPAC last year, just 1 year, back at the May meeting. Today, I want to give you an update, make an introduction, and request your continued partnership. Similar, as you saw a little bit earlier, similar to this month's theme, our mission is to strengthen the parent-teacher voice. However, we go further, correlating family engagement efforts to student achievement. This important step validates family engagement, changes the paradigm, and is the basis and will be the basis for increased resources. I thought I would kind of just go real highlight about who we were or what we did, just because I know there's a lot of new people. A lot of people are familiar with communication systems such as a Remind and Class Dojo. The problem with these systems is that they're teacher-centric and only focus on the teacher-parent relationship. We're a little bit different. We're family-focused. we give you the information you want, not just what the school wants to give you. And also because it's not just the teacher family relationship, but you also have a lot of other resources within the school district. Family engagement coordinator, community-based organizations, even DIIT. And if we go even one step further, you even got more people involved. The principal, the district administrators, besides the teachers, you've got guidance counselors, coaches, homeroom teachers, faculty advisors, etc. What we plan to do, or what we do, is we communicate and analyze and provide support for everybody, so that with all these lines, it's almost like it's a safety net for families. I thought I would just give a quick 1-minute demo just so that people see what we're talking about, because just to refresh what we were doing. Where is it? Screen 2. Okay, it should be up there. Wait a minute. Screen 2. I'm sorry. Here we go. As you can see, this is a build-up. This is what it would look like on your iPhone, basically. Here, wait a minute. There we go. This is me logging in for the first time. I would get a tile of each one of my kids. When I click on the tile, I would get tiles of each one of her classes, colored green based upon how she's doing, yellow or red. But every child's different. My daughter's not the greatest athlete. I just want her to pass gym, but she loves reading. She should be at the top of her class for history. We can, besides looking at the grades, we can look at her based upon our expectations, based upon her abilities. And when I do this, I get happy faces where expectations are met, sad where they're not. And how many times have you said, well, what's going on in that class? With this, we can click on the classroom and bring up the entire class. Alias, we can't tell you who they are. This is completely FERPA safe, if you will. And it shows all the greens, all the yellows, and then the reds. And I can see how my child fits in with the rest of the class. Is this too easy? Is this too hard? And I also can see how the entire class is doing. And that's important. If parent satisfaction is based upon meeting expectations, we can also look at the entire class that way, where we can see happy faces with expectations are met, sad where they're not, and gray circles where there's family engagement. Now, as you've seen, you haven't seen any numbers, which is great. Behind the scenes, we can take the grade point average where the parents are engaged versus where they're not, and show that delta, that value of family engagement, even down to the classroom level. I now want to talk to the teacher. Now it becomes that same messaging system where we dynamically translate. Teacher sends a note in English, parent receives it in Spanish, Bengali, their native tongue. They answer it in their native tongue, it goes back to English for the teacher. Down at the bottom, we show common messages, because a lot of times parents don't know what to ask. And this is exactly what this is about. And this would be in your native tongue, including the last one. I have an issue and I need a translator. And that is my 1 minute demo to give you an idea of what we were talking about. So what's our update? Basically, we presented back in May, and because of your support, we were able to meet with Kaneda Lloyd staff in June. Because of both endorsements between Kaneda and CPAC, we met with the deputy CIO, and they were very excited, especially some of the stuff we're doing with community-based organizations. And then the CIO resigned, and there wasn't anybody to sign as anything else. And as you guys apparently are familiar with DIIT, things have been on hold until the new CIO was appointed in March. And now we're positioned, ready to move forward, and that's why we need your help. One of the first things we did is I hired a representative, our regional manager, Daniel Baez. And Dan, do you want to speak real quick?
Of course. Thank you, Joe, and thank you, CPAC. Just briefly about myself and who I am and what I do. I was a District 3 dean for a bunch of years. I was a teacher before that. I also have kids in the district. I have a 16-year-old who actually goes to my former school, Beacon High School downtown. So I'm very much in the community, still have like the heart and spirit of a teacher, but a couple years ago, I did move over to the private sector, was working for a company called Yonder. There was the product I used at my own school, really believed in it, perfected it. And it was sort of this, I guess, this belief that was a prerequisite for me doing anything outside of education, which is where my heart will always be. right? This belief in the product led me to be really, really successful. I was just kind of like a partner at every school I went to. I led with that spirit. And honestly, this is what has brought me full circle to One Green Apple. I met Joe. I think Joe was a District 4 principal meeting where I just presented, told my story, and met Joe. He told me about what he was doing, and I like instantly believed in it. You know, having used every single system under the sun on both sides as a parent, and as an educator, I knew that there was a hole there, and everything Joe was talking about, it just resonated with me. So for me, over the next few months of getting to know Joe and brainstorming and just, you know, picking away at his idea to perfect it, it was all about how can we make this better? And I feel like we've landed at something. You know, I say we very, I mean, Joe has landed on something very brilliant that I think really shakes up this parent dynamic and just shifts the whole paradigm to, like what Joe said, making it about family and like community, everyone. And just kind of creates a synergy between school community and parents in a way that that no other program really does. So what's next? Joe mentioned we need partners. You know, he's hired me. I want you guys to know that I'm here in the city. I'm one of you. I go into schools, you know, I listen, I learn, I make bad jokes, hopefully you'll laugh at, but really at the end of the day, what I'm trying to do is move the ball forward and improve what you guys are doing. And I'll just end there. Hello?
We can hear you.
Oh, okay, sorry, I'm having some tech issues, and I guess I'll just wrap up on there. It was nice to meet you all. I was really struck by what Dr. Melendez was talking about, like community. That really resonated with me. So I just want to thank all you guys and thank you for what you do. Like I mentioned, I have kids, and so like I really am appreciative of you guys meeting once a month and, you know, putting your great minds together to like just improve, you know, what it is you do. So muchas gracias. Appreciate you all, and I hope to meet you in person.
Great. Just real quick, just to follow up, what are the next steps? Well, we need test sites. We'd like to pilot in your community. We need to socialize our concepts and are happy to speak with interested schools. Invite us to speak at your DLT meetings, CEC meetings, etc. Don't be shy. Please contact if you're interested. There we go. And lastly, if you see at the bottom, there is Daniel's direct information, both his cell number and his email address. And if there's any other questions, you know, we're happy to answer them. I know the Chancellor is about to come on, so we'll leave now. But as I said, follow up with us. If you need additional information, I can give some things to Shirley to pass out to all the DLT members or the CPAC members. But we thank you for your support, and let's see if we can't get it done this year. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Thank you. Awesome. I don't see Chancellor quite yet. Anybody has any questions real quick until the Chancellor come on? I heard in hand. Okay, District 9. Oh, we got a few. I'm gonna get Adriana. Wait, I'm gonna let Adriana speak, and then Priscilla, your question.
Thank you so much, Shirley. Hello, and thank you both, Joe and Daniel. Quick question. I love that you have automatic translation interpretation services for messages. Is there any chance or any future planning for AI development to translate any flyers or any PDFs that go through the app? I know that for our school, our teachers are very diligent. We're in Queens. Our teachers are very diligent about translating as many of their flyers as they can, but using something like an AI translator would be much more helpful. Do you guys have plans for that? Thank you.
No, but there's other people who would. Actually, we're focused on family engagement tied to student achievement and attendance. I mean, think about this from the Chancellor's level, if you will. He's responsible for two things: fiscal responsibility and student performance. And as long as, in that light, family engagement is only a tool to improve student performance, as long as it's fiscally responsible. That's what we're about. How do we start bringing in that real meat and metrics to make things work? So our focus really has been on the parents and all that stuff. However, if we want to talk otherwise, I can tell you all kinds of different services that someone would be able to use. Google keeps getting better and better, quite frankly, and that might be the cheapest alternative for you.
Thank you. And Priscilla?
Hey, thank you so much. Also, will there be a fee associated? I know it's a pilot program, but will a fee be?
Yes. Let me give you
Okay.
real quick. I'm going to give you the idea of the financials. This is a cost of about $1. This is to the district, not to you or to the school. But basically, we charge $1 a month. So that's $12 a year per student. So if we had a 500 student school, I would be charging $6,000, right? But if we increase attendance by just 1%, that's 5 kids. And I like 25 grand that the school receives, the district receives per student, or the school receives, that's like $125,000 for that $6,000 investment. So it makes financial sense both for the schools, the districts, for us. You got to have sustainable change through a market-driven initiative. If it's just a grant, you're pleading every year how to get things done. So that's why we're a little bit different.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining our platform. We do have the Chancellor on with us right now. So I'm going to introduce the Chancellor, but I'm going to share the slides. Anyway, we have our New York City Public School Chancellor David C. Banks with us and his team to give us some updates, answer some questions, to have a conversation. What's going on with New York City Public Schools at this time? So, Chancellor Banks.
Hey there. Hey, Shirley, how are you? Thank you.
I'm good.
Yep. And to everybody that's on, I hope that you all have had a good year. I think there's been a lot of things that have been going on throughout this year. And I'm excited. I think, 2.5 years into this administration, we've done a lot of good things. And I think we all should be proud of the fact that we are on the right track on a lot of issues. So excited about it, and then anxious to hear what people have to say and questions that folks have. And we're getting ready to close out another successful school year.
Okay, so that's
Yep.
the Chancellor's way. Say he want to hear what you have to say. Please
Yes.
raise your hand. So put it in the chat if you have any questions, and I know you have questions. I see Rashida put something in the chat. Peace of D4. Okay, in the house. So Rashida letting you know that she's here. We saw you. Thank you, Rashida. Nobody has questions for the Chancellor?
They gotta have questions.
Yes, have any questions?
Shirley, I'll start.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Banks, we had asked you in the beginning of the school year. I'm sorry to bring this up. I know everybody's some people are gonna be happy about it. These DOE emails for parent leaders. We had asked for a pause because DIIT was not prepared. We've met with them several times this year, trying to make it better. We were working with them. We thought we were collaborating. Everything was going well.
Right.
We haven't heard from them since the last meeting. We asked for a few things that would make it easier for us to continue, and they still don't have it together. We're asking to just stop it and not continue changing over. It's not broke. It doesn't need fixing. Can we just, not even a pause, can we just discontinue the changeover of these email addresses to these DOE external accounts?
Anybody on our team want to respond to this? This has been coming on for months now. Who's got a response?
Good morning, Randy. Good morning, everyone. How are you? I'm not sure. I was just looking to see if Helen was on, because I know she's been working so closely with you, Randy, and I even helped you troubleshoot one day. Is Helen on, or Christina, do you have an update?
They are not on. They were meant to be on, which I think is part of the frustration, but their vacation schedule sort of took hold of, they may have overlooked their vacation schedule and CPAC meeting. And the update is simply that the change is scheduled, but it is not officially happening until certain things are covered. So they are still working on those things. I know it is change is hard and difficult all of the time. And I know that the team here at CPAC has been working very diligently with DIIT to really open their eyes to some of the details and nuances of having these accounts, like the bank accounts being attached to them. There's a lot of layers to switching the emails. It's not like a turn the page and just move on. And so we've been trying to close the loops. DIIT's been trying to close the loop on some of these things and learn alongside of CPAC around, what are parent leaders using these accounts for, and why is it really tricky to just change them overnight. I think another highlight has been trying to troubleshoot around asking for identification information, right? They're asking for a driver's license number and stuff. And so those are just things that internally we're working to think about other ways to get the information without having that be the information. And so what I want to say is that it's tricky, but you are being heard very clearly on our side, and we are working to see how do we get to the changes so that we can safeguard the system as well as provide you with the supports that you need in your nuanced accounts.
Randy feels very differently. Randy, go ahead.
Yes.
I'm
So
sorry.
tell me, Randy.
We've met with them several times, and it's very disappointing because every time a question comes up or something, it's just coincidental that they don't show up to our meeting. And we've been quiet about it and just trying to work behind the scenes about it. But this just seems really unfair to parent leaders. We've gotten used to a way of working, and we pivot. We pivot around everything. We're very flexible where it comes to parent leadership and working with, New York City public schools. But at this point, and we did have a change where they did change our email accounts and they merged us over and everything went pretty smoothly. This time, having a year to make the changes and they're still not there. Parent coordinators are still struggling. FLCs and FSCs are still struggling, or whoever the SPOC is in the school, things aren't working correctly, technical support, they're disconnected. And it's just not working. It's hard.
Yep. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna ask my team, organize a meeting. I hate doing this because this is not the way it's supposed to work. But I have to be involved now, right? Kanita, are you on? Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Can we organize a meeting with DIIT? And I want Randy in the meeting. I want other parent leaders who feel the same way. I need them to be in the meeting. This is one that I've kind of left to other folks to handle. I've not leaned into this, but this has been coming up like every meeting for like a year. And what I just heard was a bureaucratic answer. So I need an answer that is a real answer. You're gonna do it or we're not gonna do it. If it's complicated, too complicated to do, then all right. So now I have to be involved. Can you organize a meeting within the next 2 weeks for me with the parent leaders, so I don't have to be asked this question at every meeting for a year? I'm going to figure out where the gap was of why this is not something that's been resolved already. It's extremely disappointing. Even if it's not resolved, the way it's being explained does not pass muster for me.
Thank you, Chancellor.
We need somebody from DIIT to come and explain the levels of the complexity, and then either we do it or we don't do it. We fix it, we do, like whatever, but this should not be an issue for a year. That's not the way that I work, I'll tell you that. I need you to set up, I'm gonna make a note of it, a meeting within the next 2 weeks.
Thank you, Chancellor.
Hello?
We will, Chancellor. And we'll bring yes, I said, yes, we will.
Okay. I just want to add that Deputy Chancellor Lloyd and Director Cristina Melendez, Executive Director Cristina Melendez, has been very helpful through this process in coordinating and helping us to work with DIIT. It's not your people at FACE. DIIT, I feel like they really just dropped the ball. It's not.
No, I get it. That's what I'm saying. I don't know who dropped it, and I understand. I appreciate what you're saying. I have no idea. I have not leaned enough. These are the kind of things that come up that I kind of turn to the team and say, would you guys work and resolve this? And these things generally resolve. Some take a little longer than others. But you've been bringing this up, Randy, for a year. And that's why I'm sitting here going, I don't even understand this. Is this issue that complicated that we're a year later and it's still not resolved one way or the other? Parents are fine, even if it turns out that we can't do what they want us to do, as long as they know we've tried our best and it's just not going to work. But this is almost still, we're working on it, we're trying, it's complicated, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't work for me. And maybe because I don't know enough about what the intricacies of what this is. That's what I'm saying. Let's get the DIT people in front of me as well with them, because I want to hear this now directly so I can be clear about what the challenge is. I would have preferred if this did not have to be going on for a year. Well, now I have to take time to do this, but that's what we got to do.
Thank you.
Okay.
We will do that. We will do that, Randy. Thank you.
So we're going to shift the conversation since I see everybody's in agreement with this. We will so I'm going to read the question or the statement in the chat. We would like to bring up our concerns over the remote login day on June 6th to test the emergency system for its capacity. We know many students were unable to log in due to prior engagements or chose not to. This is not an accurate picture of testing the system. Our question to the Chancellor is, wouldn't it be more accurate picture of everyone logging in at the same time if this test was done during school hours? Typically, there is at least 95% attendance daily. Why not run this test at 9 a.m. on a school day? Hold on, I have to scroll down.
I get it. I get the point. Is Emma on?
Yeah. Come on, Chancellor.
Yep. Hey, Deputy
really...
Chancellor. But yeah, just speak about some of the complexities of that, because those are some of the same questions that I asked. But there are reasons why it could not be done that way. Go ahead, Emma.
Yep. So first of all, thank you very much, Shirley, and thank you all for the question. And we appreciate folks who could participate last week, and we also very much understand why many could not. It was fully optional, and that is totally fine. So I want to start by saying a couple of things. I think one of the things we've learned is we need to get good at testing our system in multiple different ways, and testing IBM's login system as well as our other tools. But the IBM login is where like a lot of the heat hits for us, right? And so as a result, we have been working on testing in a couple of different ways. The best testing we're doing of the actual ability of the IBM system and our system to handle 1 million concurrent logins is actually performance testing, technical testing we do behind the scenes, where we force the system to its capacity and its limit, because that's the way we can test something that isn't even real, right? It's even harder than what's real. And that's that's industry standard, by the way. Like if you think about Black Tuesday, Black Friday, the way they test Black Friday is not by telling everybody to log on in the whole world the day before. It's that they do technical performance testing of their systems prior to that. And so the work we've been doing since February, and IBM's been doing since February, is to do that behind the scenes performance testing that really pushes our systems to the limit. And that's been happening. And based on that behind the scenes testing, we feel good about where our systems are at this moment if we actually needed to pivot to remote. But that's just one part of the test. We also wanted to continue to test students having devices at home, students' ability to log on from home, staff ability to log on from wherever they are. And so that's why we thought it was also important to do a remote test, not a mandatory one, but a remote test that allowed people to log in from where they would be if they're up for it, and ask them to log into our systems in that way and look at the human behavior side from that side. I will say, as we go into next year, one of the things the Chancellor's asked us to do is continue to think about testing in multiple different ways. So your feedback is heard. And as we look towards next year and think about our simulation, but also behind the scenes performance testing, we'll be looking at various ways. But that's sort of one piece of the answer in terms of why we did it this way. But welcome the feedback. We heard it from many, and we'll keep an eye on it.
By the way, Chair Arbin, this is Dan. Of course, in a remote day, you would not have 1 million kids logging in from the school. They'd be home. So nothing is perfect. You know, there's not a perfect way to do this, but that's one of the reasons why you wouldn't do it everybody from school. It wouldn't test all the conditions that kids would be under on a real remote day. But it's a great question.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's no real way to fully simulate this and pressure test it as though, you know, this was the way we were really doing it. I think Dan is absolutely right. It wouldn't be happening from school. I mean, that's the complete opposite of what you do when you have an emergency, snowstorm, schools were closed, everybody's now home. Now, does your system work? Which was the issue that we dealt with. It had nothing to do with kids being in school to do this. And simulating this in a real way is very difficult. You can't simulate it as a practice run. A lot of unless it's in real time, parents are like, I don't have time to stay home while you do this. You know, so you do as much as you possibly can. One of the things I think we did realize from before, and working with our tech partners, IBM and others, is that probably not best to try to log on almost 1 million people all at one time anyway. So to have kind of some staggered openings, getting our elementary school kids logged on, and maybe 40 minutes later, getting our middle school kids logged on, and then our high school kids. So that's the kind of stuff we're looking at. I think one of the things that overloaded the whole system was everybody all at the same time, basically at one time trying to come on, was a little bit of a challenge and probably not necessary to do anyway. So this is stuff that we're looking at. No perfect system, but the main goal is that our tech partners feel with the right staggering, we should be fine next time we have an emergency.
Awesome.
Next question.
Saw your hand. I saw your hand, Adriana. Your question got answered or comment?
Yvette. Yep. Sorry.
Is that a yes? Yeah, she got a thumbs up. All right. Some of the stuff is back on the DIIT. I have a question. Well, I don't have a question. I'm going to try to make a suggestion. We talked about a little bit in last month, right? And First Deputy Chancellor Weisberg and DC Lloyd chimed in a little bit, and we talk about the climate of that's going on right now, and you have addressed it in different occasions. I think it would be beneficial that maybe, I know that the staff goes to impartial and some of the education councils, but I think maybe all the families need to go through biases, prejudice, I can't think of the word, training, right? Every stakeholder should be going through this, because everybody's is participating or adding to the kind of toxic environment. And right now, part of it is parent leadership is being hurt, right? Getting volunteers because they don't want to deal with all this nonsense, right? You can't disagree agreeably in a lot of instances. Parent leaders are getting bullied if the others don't get their way, right? Whether it's against other stakeholders or parents and families among themselves. We need to really encourage to really change this environment before it hits a peak, because we're here because of the children. And I don't understand myself, because I'm kind of disappointed with the city as a whole. It's about the kids. It's not about us, right? We don't have to always get our way. And it's about collaboration. There is diversity. This is New York City, and we have been succeeding on this for the longest time. I think everybody needs to understand, like, especially politics, religion, ethnicity is not about that. It shouldn't be a foundation on how we deal with each other. It's about our schools. We should be representing our schools. We should be representing our children, right? Culture. Yes, we're supposed to learn about everybody's culture, but we shouldn't be attacking because we're not the same religion, or we're not the same ethnicity, or we're not the same race, to become not amicable, right? I would love to see that all of us go through, or a reminder that, listen, we're here together. It's okay for us not to agree, and do it in a spirit of be amicable. We don't have to, in the old days, we would say we don't have to go to our mamas, right? Attacking our mamas. This is where it's going to. It's like, as soon as you disagree, you're being labeled or harassed, or doxing vans is being sent to the schools. I think it's getting out of control at this point.
So I think that's well noted. I will tell you, since I've become Chancellor, Shirley, It's probably been the most disappointing thing for me in this job has been just kind of the behavior of adults that I've witnessed and I still have to deal with and investigate. Yeah, kids do silly things and they get in trouble for stuff, and they're kids. You sign up for that. You recognize that. I don't think I fully recognize the immaturity of the adults, of so many adults, that takes up so much of my time, of adults who just behave badly. And then everybody says, what are you going to do about it, Chancellor? You know what I mean? So, you know, I've got a lot of issues that we got to deal with. I'm going to do the best that I can, but getting some training for as many folks as possible is what I hear you saying. And we'll do the best that we can. Some of this implicit bias training that we do with our staff would be great for families as well. We have a lot of very toxic issues that we have to navigate our way through. And so we'll keep pushing, keep doing that. But let me take a look at that with our folks and find out. You know, those trainings are pretty extensive, and figuring out ways to get as many parents trained is not easy, but let us take a look at that for sure.
Thank you.
I have an issue that I wanted to raise. I think that came up recently, but that's the issue around phones in schools. And this is a book, you know, I always say, what are you reading, right? We should all be reading. We should be talking about reading. When we kick off these meetings, we should say, what are people reading? This is what I'm reading. I've already just actually finished it. The Anxious Generation. And it's by a guy named Jonathan Haidt. And he is a New York City public school parent. 2 kids in our schools. He's a journalist. And he just wrote a really, you know, big and important book that looks like it's on its way to becoming a New York Times bestseller. But people are talking about it. He's all over the news. His last name is Haidt, H-A-I-D-T. Or I don't know if it's pronounced Haidt or Haidt. But Jonathan is his first name. I would invite you to just check it out. He's been all over social media. You can hear some of his conversations, even if you haven't had an opportunity to read the book. But he talks about how the mental health of our kids has been so severely impacted, and an epidemic of mental health issues. And there's a lot of reasons for it, but he makes great recommendations in the book as well to parents, to school systems, to community, to policymakers and others. But the big suggestion that he makes in his book as it relates to us is that clearly, like, we should be removing the phones from schools. And he cites with very explicit data the impact of phones in schools and what it has created for kids has been very little that's been good about it. I certainly can't control what kids do in your house as a parent. You set your own rules or whatever it is that you're going to do. Some parents are completely overwhelmed, even with their own children, that they don't even know, like they've lost control. The kids are now clinically addicted to phones, and they're up all hours of the night. They're not just talking to friends. Some of them are on the internet and engaging with people, and sometimes parents have no idea who the kids are even engaged with on these phones. It is bad. It's really bad. Our New York City health doctor has been a big supporter of this, Dr. Passan. The social media impact. But I'm gonna tell you, over the last 3 weeks or a month or so, I've talked to several hundred principals now. Every single principal that I've spoken to has said the same thing. When I said, should we take the phones out of the schools? Every single one has said, not only yes, absolutely, hell yes. Like, it is creating problems in our schools that you probably can't even imagine, Chancellor. They're talking about the mental health challenges, the bullying that takes place. Another parent is talking about the principal was talking about the safety. They're talking about safety issues. It's when you see all of these fights and all the stuff that's happening after school and the meetups and people are coming from one school, it's all happening through the phones. But the phone is the tool that kids are creating this mechanism for all the confrontation that is taking place. Kids are living for the likes. I need to be liked. I need to be liked. I need to be liked. on the phone. And I spoke to a CEC 11 in the Bronx 2 nights ago, and just set it out there to a few hundred parents that were there and said, what do you think? Overwhelmingly, the parents said, take the phones. Take the phones. Like, I'm telling you, we see it. It's a major problem. I've been a little surprised at how overwhelming the response has been. I've spoken in several different churches across the city. I generally get to churches on Sundays and speak to just community members, grandmas, abuelas, everybody. And I raise this issue. It's an amen corner. People rising to their feet. Like, yes. The mayor and I did a press conference a few weeks ago at a school in Brooklyn. And there were about 24 kids at the press conference who were part of it. Press conference was announcing some of the results of the new app that the city put out, which helps kids who are being confronted with mental health issues, how they can get in front of a psychiatrist or somebody to help them in real time. And there are almost 7,000 kids who've already signed up for it. We're encouraging more folks to sign up. Kenita or somebody from the FACE team, maybe if you can just put that in the link as well. Again, information about that, because we need to continue to push that, because when we talk about the kids' mental health, we're trying to come up with different things that we can do to solve for this and to help our kids. And this gentleman is saying the number one thing you could do is to take these phones away. They are killing our kids. He's talking about the neuroscience and the physiological effects of this stuff on the kids. So when I talked to these kids at the press conference when it was over, I gathered all of these kids. Now, they go to Thomas Jefferson High School in Brooklyn. There are 4 schools in that building. That school has already taken the phones away, where the kids actually put them in those pouches, those yonder pouches. Yeah. And I said to the kids, and overwhelmingly, not every one of them, but overwhelmingly, the kids said it's the best thing ever. I said, really? Why? All their hands were going up. One kid said, we hated it for the first 2 weeks. Hated it. But now we actually talk to each other again. It was almost like an epiphany, you know? It's in the past, we haven't talked to you. Everybody just comes in the cafeteria, whatever. Everybody's just buried in their phone. Another girl raised her hand and said, Mister, we didn't start this, but we're like really addicted to the phones. And now, since our school took it away, it's like it gave our brains a break. I said, what grade are you in? She said, I'm in the 10th grade. She said, it's like the school gave us an excuse to give our brain a break. I said, don't you think kids across the city are going to be really upset if we take phones away? And another young man, I turned to him, he said, yeah, many of them will be very upset. He said, but do it anyway. He said, it's like a person that's on drugs. The person that's on drugs does not volunteer for you to take their drugs away. But deep down, they know they need somebody to help them. That's basically what they're saying. Kids around the city will say, don't take our phones, we need our phones. And they're saying, you need to take it. It's like an intervention. Let us be kids again. Let us be kids again. And that is what is happening. There are more schools around the city that are doing this than I even realized as we started to just survey. Folks who've already learned that, who've said the number of, remember we were at another CEC meeting, Kenita, which one was that? That wasn't 11, that was another one, the one before that.
I think it might have been 23. I'm here. It's
23 in Brownsville.
23, yes.
23 in Brownsville, yeah. The principal of the school that we're in jumped up and said, I've already taken the phones. I've already seen this. It's a compelling story here. He said, our incidents have dropped dramatically because we took away the phones. The joy, the togetherness, the collaboration amongst kids has skyrocketed because of this. Just this one thing that we did changed the whole dynamic of the school. It's just amazing that of all the stuff that I'm hearing, I'm processing, and just curious to know, thoughts. We've got kids, we've had parents who said, well, I need to be in touch with my child. You know what's happening? We have kids in the middle of their math class with their mommies texting them. Don't forget to pick up such and such from the store, right? You're supposed to be doing that. You're supposed to be in school. You should not be in touch with your child during the school day. If there's an emergency, you call the school. That's what we always did. We existed before we ever had cell phones. And in fact, some of these emergencies that we're having get exacerbated by everybody having phones. It creates a panic. We should be able to contact that principal. We should be able to contact that parent coordinator, somebody with a direct flow of information. I've had principals saying to me, because of all of these phones, rumors spread. We have parents descending on the school because somebody said, oh, I heard this. Now parents are running and going crazy, losing their minds and not getting clear information. Why? Because every single kid's got a phone and can just send out stuff all over the place. It creates more problems than it's worth. Curious to hear from anybody here in the few minutes that we have left, what thoughts people have. We got time for just 2 or 3 comments. I'd love to hear what people are thinking.
I see, Adriana, you have your hands up, but I'm going to ask you because, you know, a lot of across the city are doing stuff like self-free zone areas, doing that ponder thing. Bottom line, in my experience from all the conversations, the parents, there's wholly wants to do this, right? There's a few here and there, just like what you said, because how am I supposed to reach my child, right? I think that the students are more receptive to refute getting the phone. But I would like to ask, would you make an executive order and remove the phones from out of the schools? Will you do that?
Well, listen, this is interesting. When I asked all these principals, I said, should we do something where we just say we leave it all up to you as an individual school and school community, come up with your own? Universally, not everybody, but overwhelmingly, they said, no, you should do it as the chancellor. You give us, it's like backing us up. Because if you don't do that, if you truly believe that it is good for kids and is good for their safety and is good for their mental health, why wouldn't you do it and mandate it for the whole system in the same way that we did with reading? We are sitting around with all these kids that didn't even know how to read. So we mandated, no, we're going to do a specific approach to this, and we're going to fix this reading problem. We're not going to sit around and say, I don't know, well, what do you think? Everybody do whatever they feel that they think works best. This is a mental health crisis, and it's a safety crisis. And if I'm responsible for the system, that I should be leaning in for the system. I will tell you, all these administrators and an overwhelming number of parents, it's never everybody. You're never going to get that in a system this large anyway. But overwhelmingly, this is what everybody's saying. We need you to do something with it. Before I got on this call, I'm literally just coming from a big event celebrating my brother's keeper, my sister's keeper. The speaker of the city council is there. The regent, chancellor of the state board of regents, Dr. Lester Young, is there. Several hundred people in the room. And when I gave my remarks, I asked the kids, there are about, 40 kids or something in the room. I had them all stand up. I said, tell me what you think about this phone issue. I told them basically what I said to you. This is what some of the data is saying. Every child except for one said, I think you should absolutely take away the phone. And they said, talk about all of the distractions of the phone, and just all the problems. And as I was walking out, one young person said, please take the phones. My mother calls me all day long on the phone. Right? Like if you take the phones, it would help me, because it's overwhelming what's happening. And a lot of parents are not being responsible at all, in how they are reaching kids. My mom and dad would have never been in a position to be bothering me in the middle of my English class to tell me, don't forget to call grandma, it's her birthday. It should not be happening. They are in school to go to school. And if there's an emergency, you call the school. They will get your child. We're not denying you access. And my goal here is not to even take phones. Some of the schools are taking them. They get them back at the end of the day. Many of the schools are using the pouches. So you still keep your phone. It's just that it's put in this magnetized pouch. And you keep it. And at the end of the day, they demagnetize it. And it's 3 o'clock. And now you can call mom and dad or anybody else you want to call. All your friends, do whatever you want to do. We're not keeping their phones forever. But we're saying while they're in school, this is better for them not to have the distraction of the phone. And they can learn better. They can be engaged in school with their classmates and their teachers. We had a couple other hands.
Adriana, your hands are up. If anyone has a question related to that
particularly, I'm happy to wait because I would like to say something, but I also have a question. I'm happy to wait because I already spoke.
No, you don't have to wait because I'm in a minute. I'm getting ready to jump out. I've got to go into another meeting here. I'm sitting in front of a school now, getting ready to go in and surprise a teacher with the Big Apple Teacher of the Year award. So they're all waiting for me to go in. So I only had a few more minutes.
I will keep this brief then. Thank you for being with us today. It's our last general meeting of the year. Happy to see you here. Before I ask my question, I wanted to make a short comment about the phones and teenagers in general. I'm not going to argue the detriment of like excessive phone use or excessive social media exposure. Like we know that those things are not good for kids. And you're right, it is behaviorally very close to an addiction. It's a dopamine, right? It's the same reason that humans love those machines, the slot machines in a casino. That's why they're so effective. But I think it's important that we don't, in this space, because we are all parent leaders, that we don't trivialize adolescence, and that we don't trivialize or forget how difficult it is to be a teenager. In your earlier comments, you said that like they want to be liked, they're doing it for the likes. I mean, water wets things, right? Teenagers are people and people are social creatures. And whether we have an inclination to be liked by one person or liked by everyone, whatever floats your boat, we do have that. And I just want to say, in case any teenagers are listening to our live stream, it's okay to want to be liked. It's normal. We are all wanting to be liked by at least one person in our lives. Having said that, I have a question regarding typing as a skill set to be taught at school. Many of the families in Queens are concerned about the rapid increase in computer-based everything, homework, evaluations, testing, and then on top of that, writing essays or writing assignments. But the students across the board are not given access to typing courses as part of their curriculum. My kindergartner took assessments on a computer using a keyboard and a mouse before he had any foundational knowledge of the keyboard, the QWERTY setup, any of it, right? Not even foundational typing skills. I'm happy to teach him that, but I also have the privilege to be able to stay home and sit with him in front of a laptop or just in front of a keyboard and teach him that. And the reality is many parents don't have that privilege, and they may themselves not be aware of how to type properly, how to put your fingers in the right place to avoid any like soft tissue damage in your wrists, et cetera, et cetera. It would be great if, while pushing all of this to computers, fabulous, we all use computers all day long, it's great skill set, but they need to be able to type. Thank you.
I appreciate that. And something for us to take a look at. I learned how to type when I was in middle school. You're right. A lot of kids don't have it. They just know the skill with the fingers and the thumbs rather of doing this. So duly noted. Appreciate it. I'm sorry that I do have to run now. I've got to get in here. They got a whole thing. Have you ever seen when they do the awards for the Big Apple Surprise? We do this for a number of teachers around the city. It's a way of showing gratitude for some of like the best teachers across New York City. I'm here at the High School for Health Professions in Lower Manhattan here. I think we're on 14th Street, right on 14th Street. And it is always a thrill. And the teacher has no idea that they won until they see the chance to walk in and the whole band of people and kids just to say to a specific teacher how much we love you, how much we appreciate you, how much we thank you for being a great teacher. To me, there's nothing in the world, nothing better than a great teacher. They truly do change the world. They impact kids in so many positive ways. So this is kind of like one of the best parts of being Chancellor, when you have a chance to go in and say thank you to a great teacher. So I don't want to keep them waiting any longer. We're getting ready to head in. Thank you, everybody. This has been really good intel. And if folks have more stuff, please share it. You got all the folks on our team. But Deputy Chancellor Lloyd will set up a meeting within the next 2 weeks so we can get to the bottom of this DIT issue and try to put this thing to rest for sure. All right. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Awesome. Thank you. Enjoy your rest of the day. Have fun. Thank you, team. We're going to go to the next agenda item, which
Happy Father's Day. Happy Father's
Day.
Day. And happy Eid to all who celebrate.
All right. I'm going to share the screen. the benefits, New York State class size mandate and New York City Public Schools. We're going to have a conversation with First Deputy Chancellor Dan Weisberg. Or kind of continue the conversation. Did he come off?
Yeah, I think he may have. I hate to disappoint Shirley. I think I'm actually the one doing this portion of the presentation in terms of the class size policies we're putting in place next year. And I believe Cora from SCA is on as well. And DSL might be on as well. I'm not sure. So hi, Cora. So hold on one second. Let me try and screen share.
I have to make you a co-host. Hold on a second.
I seem to be one already.
You're
No,
not.
I'm not. Okay, fine.
All right. Does Cora, you need to be a co-host too?
No, I don't think so, right, Cora?
Okay.
I'll just do my slideshow.
I don't believe so. Thank you.
Okay, there you go.
Oh, hold on one second, guys. I'm sorry. No. Give me 1 second. Sorry, it just kicked me off sharing. Let me try one more time. Beginning. Does that work? Good?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
You're
Great.
good.
Okay. First of all, thank you, everybody. I know we've talked about pieces of this piecemeal over the past couple of months, but we're glad to be here to sort of give you a more comprehensive take at what we are looking at for next year in terms of class size, implementation of the law. I'm going to do a quick overview of the law itself, just as a reminder. I know many of you are very familiar, but just as a reminder in terms of what the law requires, and then talk about the work we're doing on the budget side and the work we're doing with superintendents and schools to move forward to stay in compliance for next year and then plan ahead beyond next year with SEA as well. So with that, want to start by stepping back because we haven't actually talked to you all since school budgets came out, which is related to class size, but also related to many other things, of course. So wanted to start with just a quick overview of where we are in terms of school budgets going into next school year. This whole conversation is going to be about next school year. Overall, as we look across the system of school budgets, we're seeing an increase of over $800 million. That's across the system, over $800 million increase next year as compared to the current school year. That's in part due to collective bargaining increases, due to extremely well-earned increases for our teachers and principals. It's also due to additional state foundation aid we received that we are putting into school budgets, including for class size in particular. And it's due to the individual school hold harmless that was announced last week that we worked with the city to put in place as well. So all of those are contributing to that. It's also due to sorry, so that's one thing. Second thing, thanks to those of you who served on our FSF working group. I can't see who's on, but going into next year, we are also maintaining those new weights that we put into the Fair Student Funding formula this year. So that came to about $100 million into school budgets this year. We expect to see the same or more going into school budgets next year for these weights. And that is the additional weights schools received for each student in temporary housing they are serving, which includes many of our asylum-seeking students, and then additional funds for schools with high concentrations of students with additional needs. And those are some of the recommendations that came out of the FSF working group that we are maintaining for next year. We're investing, and we'll talk about this in more detail, but we're putting roughly $180 million of additional state foundation aid into school budgets, specifically for contracts for excellence, which is a set of 6 uses required by the state, including class size, and then roughly $137 million for class size in particular. And then on top of all those other increases, we also worked with the city to put in place a hold harmless for any school that sort of, despite these additional increases, was still going to see a year-over-year decrease at the school level, and put an additional $75 million into school budgets to ensure every school in terms of their initial budget was at least where they were last year. So that's sort of big picture on school budgets. And then of course, this is on top of the previous stimulus programs that we were able to sustain going into next year, summer school, summer rising, community schools, additional arts allocations centrally and at schools and all that. Turning to class size. So again, as a quick reminder, this is a new state law that applies to New York City public schools, doesn't apply to other districts, also doesn't apply to charter schools, which is a question we get often, that basically requires that the city reduce actual class sizes in every every classroom across the district over the past 5 years, over the next 5 years, to be under these caps. So those are the specifics: 20, 23, and 25 students per class. There's different requirements for performing arts and PE, a bit higher, 40. And then basically the law requires that this year, which is year one, 20% of classes across the system be in compliance, 40% next year in compliance, meaning under these caps, 40% next year, 60% year after, going up to 100% in the 27-28 school year. And so that's what the law lays out sort of as the framework for this year and going forward. And it's a citywide set of data, which we'll see is important in a minute. And then the law has a set of exemptions that can be agreed upon between New York City Public Schools Chancellor, the head of the U of T, and the head of the CSA. And those are the categories in which there can be exemptions. This is what we look like currently. So if you look across the city, in terms of the percentage of classes under the caps, this is what it looks like. And as you can see, there's wide variation between districts within the city. So darker means more classes are currently underneath the caps that are required in the law. So if you look at D23, Brownsville, we have roughly 73% of our classes under the caps this year. If you look at D26, I believe it is, in Queens, we have 20% of our classes under the caps, and then everywhere else falls somewhere in the middle. And you can see lighter is fewer classes under the caps, darker is more classes under the caps. And again, that's our current state for this year. If you look across the city, what you get is we currently have about 40% of classes across the city falling under the new caps, which is roughly what is required under the law for next year. That being said, while we are close to compliance for next year already, we are putting in place a set of policies and a set of budget decisions to support implementation of the law next year across the city. So one of the big things we've done is we've asked every district in the city to work to improve their compliance, improve the percentage of classes they have under the caps by 3 percentage points. As you guys could see on the last map, districts are really all over the map in terms of how much progress they have to do to get to 100%. But we think it's important that no matter where they are, they start doing some work to make some improvement. So we've said to all superintendents, please work with your principals to improve compliance by at least 3% going into next year. We've intentionally not had big central mandates around what that needs to look like. We don't think we need to do that to ensure we stay in compliance next year. So we're leaving it up to superintendents and principals to think about how they can make progress. We've given them a list of options, but it's really up to them to consider how to make progress going into next year, looking differently at space, looking differently at how students are distributed between classes, looking differently at budget, and sort of looking at different ways to make progress going into next year. So that's one thing we've done. We've been working with our superintendents on that as well. The second thing is, and Cora's here and can answer more questions, been doing a lot of work with SEA to focus on updating our capital planning strategy to make sure it's aligned with class size, which, as we've discussed before, requires SEA to think differently about how they do their planning in this current capital plan. Also working to make sure the 27,000 seats they already have underway are being used to address the class size needs we know exist under the law's framework, which is not why those seats necessarily first came about, because they predated the law's new caps, but making sure they are aligning and helping with compliance there. That's the second thing. And I would say as a part of that, we're also doing some work with specific schools that just need a little bit more space to figure out where they can repurpose a room or two going into next year. So we know they have the space they need, can check that box off going forward. As I said, we're putting additional money into school budgets, both generally, as you saw, but then specifically for class size reduction. This is new. this new funding stream that is just for class size reduction that we are putting out. We're working closely with our HR team, who I realized are not here, but could be surely next time it's of interest in terms of thinking about teacher recruitment strategies. We know that we project that the law will require us to hire an additional 10 to 12,000 teachers by 2027, 2028. That's on top of the 3,000 to 4,000 we hire regularly each year. And we know a set of those will be special education teachers where we already face shortages. And so our HR department is thinking about how we can both continue and expand some of the work we've been doing, as well as think about new strategies for teacher recruitment and working with our union partners on that. We're continuing to focus on high poverty schools. The law requires us to focus on high poverty schools. One of the things, as you might have seen in the map slide, one of the challenges here is the schools with the greatest class size reduction needs tend to be some of our less high poverty schools. And the schools where we tend to already have smaller classes, those districts tend to be some of our more high poverty schools. But we are working to make sure in these first few years of implementation, we keep poverty at the center of our implementation efforts. We've obviously worked hard to continue to make things like FSF even more equitable and are keeping that at our focus and implementation here. And then we're frankly just doing a lot of data analysis and planning for the years ahead in terms of the work that needs to be done. So I'm actually gonna stop my screen share, Shirley. And I think, Cora, you should jump in if there's anything you want to add. And otherwise, I think we're happy to take any questions. And if DSL's on and wants to add anything, they should jump in too. Obviously, this work really, as a lot of it is for next year, is falling on superintendents as well. So happy to have them join.
You're still sharing, Emma, or somebody's still sharing. Yep. There you go. Right.
You good, Cora?
Cora,
Yeah.
there she goes.
No, Emma, I think that is a really great summary. We, as Emma mentioned, we are working very closely with a lot of the departments, teams within the New York City Public School on a regular basis. We have bi-weekly meetings, weekly meetings that look at, this work together to identify sites and figure out the creative approaches. So we're hoping that, we can make bigger, better or faster progress identify sites for schools in the coming month, and then we can report back on progress we make. But other than that, I think, if there's any question, we're happy to address or answer.
All right. Anybody has questions? Okay, there's a bunch of them in the chat.
Oh, sorry, Shirley, I was just going to take the first one.
No, I have to say it out loud because we are live streamed. They cannot see the chat. So the first one is to confirm, this is a classes like individual classes or classes like graduated class?
Very good question. It's individual classes. So it could be an individual AP biology class. It could be an individual kindergarten class, but it's each individual section of each course at each school.
Right. The next one, are there any previous submitted and still unanswered questions going to be answered now? Okay. All questions were shared last month prior to DC Weisberg shifting to this month. Yeah, questions were submitted for last month's meeting and they weren't answered. So that's what members are asking about. Questions were submitted 2 months ago regarding class sizes.
I don't have those questions in front of me, but if someone wants to bump them, I think Cora and I can try and answer everything we can. I apologize that I don't have them in front of me.
I think I might have them. Happy to share my screen if that helps.
Okay, let me make you a co-host. Hold on a second. There we go. Okay, Cora, you're good.
You can see. I believe those are the questions. Is that, are those the correct questions we're referring to from the last previous submission, I think?
Yeah, I think that was Adriana's personal submission. There was one submitted for all of CPAC. So, but those are her specific questions that she
I
said she missed the deadline. So this is her
Can I ask-
questions.
Jesse or someone from FACE, if we have those and you could forward them, Cora and I can try and take them. Cora, I think you can tackle a couple of these now if we start here.
Sure. So I think the first question is about the budget. We did share estimate. We did provide a very rough estimate of the capital dollars that's needed to support the class size, which is the 22 to 20. I think we actually said 22 to 27 billion, but the calculation that is cited here in the question it kind of makes sense, but I do want to point out a few things. So in the plan, because we don't know how many buildings we need to build, where we are building those seats, and how big the schools we can build. So those are really kind of placeholders to count for the seats and the funding we have. Just to know that, you know, there is a very significant economy of scales when we build bigger buildings, right? You only need 2 sets of stairs, you only need 2 elevators. So there are a lot of kind of the building support space, same amount needed for a much larger building compared to a smaller building. So the smaller buildings are a lot more expensive on a per seat basis. Because the law is really on individual schools and every classroom has to be in compliance, we anticipate the implementation of the capital strategy will have to be on a very localized level, which means we probably will end up building a lot of smaller schools to help individuals schools instead of a large building to, you know, to address a sub-district level need, which was the basis of our current capital plan. So the 22 to 27 billion estimate is really taking into account a more localized framework based on this, you know, different type of strategy we might have to apply. It does count for smaller buildings being a lot more expensive as a way to support the class size compliance. So that's for question number 1. Question number 2 is more on teachers. I don't think.
Yeah. I can answer that. Yeah. So first of all, thank you for the question. And as I noted, we do think hiring additional teachers is one of the key needs we have going forward. And that's one of the reasons we're putting additional dollars into school budgets in multiple ways to hire additional teachers. The high level answer to this question is there's some discrepancies between the financial plan and what we're actually projecting for next year, both because we got a bunch of additional dollars through stimulus dollars that are going into school budgets, through the additional dollars that have been announced since the last financial plan that are going into school budgets, and just because of some, as we and OMB continue to work to align what our dollars look like. So big picture, we are not projecting that level of loss of teachers for next year. Schools have their budgets. We are expecting they will be hiring additional teachers for next year with the additional dollars they are getting for that purpose. And that's what we are projecting for next year.
All right,
sure.
So,
go ahead, Shirley. I'm sorry, I forgot.
Yeah. Question number 2 is during the class size hearing on 29 February, this is what was answered. CM Chris Hahn stated that New York City financial plan projects that the loss of almost 3,000 teachers over the next 2 years. This equals, okay, it went small again for me. This equals a loss of approximately 889 teachers next year and 1,819 teachers the following year. In response, Deputy Chancellor Weisberg testified that this figure was not our HR projection necessarily. Yet, according to this is a long question. Yet, according to the council budget briefing paper, page 29, the DOE has projected a loss of 889 teachers next year, a figure that exactly matches those captured in the financial plan? How will the DOE meet their class size reduction goals and remain in compliance with the law given the sheer level of loss of teachers next year and the following year? That was the question. That was just
Thank you.
answered.
Thank you, Shirley. So basically that's the answer. That's not what we're projecting. And we believe these additional dollars, as well as the dollars schools have, will ensure we remain in compliance and are projecting to hire additional teachers.
Can we break up? There's a question in the chat. Can we just break it up for a second before we go back to those questions? When will the DOE announce the plan for the upcoming fall admission cycle 25-26 while the city is in compliance for this year? They are not after that, and parents need to know by September what this landscape will be.
Thank you very much, Becca, and appreciate the question. And I promise you the September fall timeline is very much on our minds. So going into next year, into the 24-25 school year, we did not have any large scale enrollment and admissions changes, which is, I think, what you are looking at. Individual schools did individual things, but we didn't have any large scale changes in order to get or remain in compliance with the class size law. That's in part because we didn't think that was necessary going into this fall. We're very close to compliance already. And it's in part because it's honestly something we are not eager to do unless we really need to. We appreciate families are choosing these schools, and we're not looking to make changes to that unless we really need to. That being said, you're asking about the year after next. What I can tell you is this is something we are very much discussing internally. We're very aware that if we're going to make any large scale shifts, that's something families need to know this fall as they make their own decisions. And we expect that any changes would happen in compliance with that timeline, so families know in advance.
Thank you. And those who came in late or just coming in, please fill out the attendance form. Before we go back to one of the questions on the screen, number 3, I just would like to answer this, even though we still have questions. After every month this year, I've sought the understanding as to the school construction. The Construction Authority and New York City Public Schools rationale for no longer identifying 77% of the seats in the capital plan according to district, borough, and grade level. Okay, I think that's a comment. I don't see the question. I guess you want clarification?
Sure, I can respond to that. And that's actually somewhat related to the third question on the screen. So I'm not sure if folks are aware, the New York City has been experienced very consistent and large scale birth rate decline for the past 15 years. And on top of that, the public school enrollment has been on its decline for almost 10 years. So with those two things combined, we are no longer seeing any C need citywide. So instead, we are pivoting the new capacity program in the capital plan to really provide the capital support for class size compliance. And that planning framework is very different from the capacity C need that we used to have. We continue to post and share information as we have been for a couple of years after Local Law 167 was established and passed. The same information on our website, but the bottom line is we no longer have C need, and that's the reason why we couldn't identify where the funding and the seats to be funded will be in which district and sub-district. It is going to be on an ongoing basis as we continue to identify sites to address class size. When sites are identified, they will be shared and included in our plan.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry if you have any other additional comments or questions, you're going to have to put it in the chat. We're 6 minutes into the next presentation. I invited guests. We want to respect their time. If FACE doesn't have those additional questions, just I will look for them and forward them again, so you can have them, so we can have those questions answered. We appreciate you taking the time and discuss the conversation with us. I just want to remind members, this is your meeting. this is your opportunity to ask questions, right? About these topics. So and representing your districts. So thank you so much, Emma and Cora. I'm going to go to you welcome to stay. I'm going to share my slides here. Right. We're going now to hear a presentation from Saving Jane. And they will tell you who they are, what they're about. I'm going to give the floor to Kathyann Powell to introduce everyone that's with her, and they have the floor.
Thank you so much, Shirley, and good morning, everyone. So I'm Kathyann Powell, the founder and the CEO of Saving Jane. We are a 501c3 nonprofit charity dedicated to the prevention of human trafficking, especially children. So why prevention? So in 2018, when Saving Jane was founded, we started wanting to assist human trafficking survivors. And after doing lots of research and looking at the problem, we realized that if someone has been trafficked, the trauma that comes along with it was just overbearing. And we have failed as society, and the damage has already done. So I started thinking about this for a while, sitting on my couch, thinking about children and their future. Then that's when we focus our mission on prevention, and prevention especially for children. I went around, asked a lot of folks who could assist us with storytelling, writing books, making it an easy conversation so kids could digest. And I got a lot of no's. I got a lot of no's that this is not the topic to have, And then I met Thomas Essler a couple of months later, and he have already created a series of comic books for about 10 years where he advocate for children and empower them around this conversation. So I'd like to introduce you guys to Thomas Essler, the author and the comic book creator and the development of the Abolitionista workshops.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Kathyann, and thank you for everyone who's showing up today. I'm going to begin sharing my screen, and that for me is always a funny, funky little thing to try and do. Let me try and get this happening. Oh, okay. All right. Here we are. Does everybody see our Saving Jane pile? Great. Well,
yes. I'm sorry, could you make it a little larger?
Oh, let me see. I don't think I can, unfortunately. How big is it on your screen? You know what I want to do? I want to stop my video. Maybe that'll help. Also,
no, that's not gonna. You can stop your video. That will help with the audio, but that's not gonna help with the slides. I mean, I can pinch mine and make it bigger, but if everybody seeing it the same way I am, some people are gonna have hard time seeing the slides.
Shirley, hi, this is Oded. I see it full screen. I don't know if I have a different setting or so. I'm not sure about other experiences.
All right. Everybody says, some said, yes, please make it bigger. Others are saying, I see it huge. So let's continue.
All right. Thank you so much. I'm sorry. When it comes to technology, I'm a little slow. All right. I will, however, stop my video now. And I do just want to briefly just thank you all for being here today and tell you how moved I am by your dedication as guardians of the children of our community, which are so valuable, but also in some ways are most vulnerable members of our community. Thank you for your commitment to championing education. This is probably the only time I will get to thank you for defending our rights and our shared values of respect, freedom, and equality. I think your tireless work ensures that our community thrives and that our children have the opportunity to reach their full potential. I have some sobering news, I'm afraid. The tough news is that never before have predators and traffickers had such easy access to so many children because of social media. Human traffickers can initiate thousands of recruitment conversations while hiding their identity and their intentions. Since the pandemic, young people have spent an extraordinary portion of their lives online. We have carefully created this prevention workshop to responsibly teach kids how to recognize a recruitment conversation, how to powerfully deal with a predator or trafficker, and who they can go to for help if they get into trouble. What makes this prevention workshop different is that it's based around a comic book. We had no idea that a comic book workshop about human trafficking was going to be as successful as it has been. I brought comic book workshops into schools where kids try and talk their way out of their regular classes in order to attend. And it's because kids don't look at comic books like textbooks or schoolwork. Comic books are their entertainment preference. And when they read them, they become absorbed in them in such a way that they remember everything about the story. You bring a comic book into schools, kids go nuts. They can't read it fast enough. And they end up memorizing every word. When I ask questions about the comic book after they read it, they answer by quoting the comic book verbatim. And one of the most touching things that ever happened was this young woman handing me her composition book after reading the comic book, where she had written, "Your comic book taught me how to know if someone is trying to play me and gave me the courage to live life without fear. Thank you for telling me that I have the right to protect myself." You know, I just want to show you some media coverage of human trafficking cases in New York City over the past 12 months. This human trafficking is a big threat. And, you know, I was really struck by one of the headlines at the bottom that shows that that experts say that up to 50% of trafficked youths are male. In fact, the Washington Post had an article a couple months ago about an epidemic of young men being exploited online, and it was so serious and so traumatic and humiliating that tragically several of them took their own lives. And that is the case with many victims of human trafficking. We work with Judge Camacho, who's had to create a family court just for human trafficking cases because it has become an epidemic in his neighborhood. And many of the stories he tells me end tragically as well. I also just want to, you know, what other, let me just show you some statistics from some studies. 100,000 US born children are trafficked every year. 80% of homeless youth who are trafficked come out of the foster care system. And I was speaking with a foster care administrator who told me of an apartment on the Upper East Side in an affluent neighborhood where kids go to hang out. But that apartment was owned by a trafficker who was really grooming these kids for exploitation. The average age of entry is 13. In 2018, the National Human Trafficking Hotline had over 1,000 calls with victims from New York. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children reviewed over 100 million images of child pornography last year, 34 million of which were new. It's just chilling, I know, chilling. Educators say that the best way to protect children is to educate them. And one of the things that sets our, or one of the ways that we ease into the subject matter for young people is to show them what it looks like around the world. For instance, here is a picture of victims of human trafficking working in cotton plantations around the world, mostly Asia and Africa. We go over domestic servitude. This is a picture from India. Child soldiers from Africa, organ trafficking, forced marriage, about 22 million victims of human trafficking are due to forced marriages where men buy girls who have no say in the matter for this marriage. So we're not talking about arranged marriages, we're talking about forced marriages, and also sex trafficking. But that's what human trafficking looks like around the world. But what does it look like here in our neighborhoods? And what type of human trafficking are kids most vulnerable to? That's what our comic book is about, Good Girl Gone. And it tells one of the most typical trafficking stories of a young woman who runs away from home. The young woman in the middle, Zoe, is the main character. Her best friend, Moon, is also an important part of the story, and Kyle is the trafficker. The story is Zoe runs away from home because her mom's new boyfriend starts acting in inappropriate and dangerous ways around her. I can't tell you how many young people in schools identify with that scenario. An online friend of that she's never met offers her a place to stay, but that person isn't real. It's been fabricated by a trafficker who's trying to recruit young women. So Zoe's being catfished, and kids really understand that happens online all the time. When this online friend doesn't show up to the meeting because she's, fictitious, the trafficker comes to her rescue, offers her food and a place to sleep. The stranger turns into her boyfriend, who turns into her career coach, who then turns into her trafficker. And it is only through the persistence of this friend, Moon, and her school counselor that Zoe realizes that she's in danger, and she summons her inner strength to free herself from her trafficker. When you weave educational material about human trafficking into a story, the kids receive a much deeper understanding of what human trafficking is. Stories give students context and shows them that the characters that are involved, which they recognize. They see a recruitment conversation happening. They understand what a dangerous situation looks like, and they sharpen their ability to spot this dangerous person. When young people see this, they immediately understand these situations. They start recognizing the potential dangerous situations in their own life. They begin to ask themselves, I see this, why is this person on the internet trying to get my personal contact information? They ask themselves these questions. Why is the older man offering me to take him shopping? It's so typical of ways that traffickers recruit young people. Why does this guy what does this guy want in return for concert tickets that I want and that he's offering? And why does this person seem to want me to be interested in someone else? This is so creepy, but that is what happens in human trafficking. The final section of our educational curriculum is about empowering young people with skills that they need to protect themselves. We teach kids how to recognize the warning signs of a friend who might be in trouble, and how to recognize a good person from a bad person, which, let's face it, is a skill that we all need. In fact, so many of these skills we teach are applicable to many other safety issues in life, particularly around healthy relationships. In our workshop, we teach kids who they can go to for help, what trusted adults they can go to for help if they get into trouble, or if a friend of theirs gets into trouble. And we make a list. Our students learn online safety practices. We give them a Bill of Rights, which includes things like, I have the right to walk away from any situation that feels creepy, unsafe, or inappropriate. I have the right to tell anyone to stop touching me or leave me alone. And I have the right to make this request as loud as I can, especially if other people are around. I've met many parents who try to shield their children from any information about human trafficking or other dangerous people in the hopes that shielding them from knowing about human trafficking somehow makes their children safer. But by keeping children away from learning about human trafficking, caring adults are making children even more vulnerable to traffickers and predators. It is not while a child is under the watchful eye of an adult that a child is vulnerable. It's while they're on their way to school or at the playground or going to a friend's house that they're vulnerable, or while they're online. Kids have to know how to protect themselves, how to spot dangerous situations when they're online or on their own, and how to steer clear of them. Educating adults about human trafficking without educating young people is like inoculating a parent for an illness that a child is at risk of getting. What sets Saving Jane's prevention program apart is that it is crafted by educators. It is history-based. It has a proven track record in New York City, and it also has innovative educational tools, like a comic book that generates a huge amount of excitement with students. And it helps them this really important material. I like to imagine a whole generation of our young people in our community growing up understanding how to identify predators, how to protect themselves. And also on the other side of the coin, what a healthy relationship looks like, which is what we all want for our children to grow up and have this rich, beautiful, healthy relationship that really enriches all our lives. That is Saving Jane's Abolitionista program. And we would love for you to contact us for more information on how we can partner to safeguard the children in our community. And I am open to questions if anyone has any questions.
Just one in the chat. Hold on a second. Scroll down. When showing that reference photo for forced marriage, do you provide additional context as to the location, culture, etc.? Because the image we saw reinforces deeply ingrained stereotypes, specifically anti-Arab stereotypes, and this is entirely unnecessary when there are 4 U.S. states that have set no statutory minimum for marriage. You don't have to be at least 18 to get married. And if that wasn't bad enough, most states have massive loopholes, including parental consent.
Yes, we actually have pictures of forced marriages that are happening in the United States. The latest study that I showed estimates that there are hundreds of thousands of forced marriages that happen in the United States, and that's actually the picture that we show.
Okay, before I give the floor to Adriana, anybody else has any questions? Okay, Adriana.
Thank you. I guess that actually feeds into what my question actually was, which is, do you provide additional context as to the location, the culture, etc.? Because if you're using the photo that we saw, that, in my opinion, reinforces anti-Arab sentiment and other related stereotypes. If you were to take a picture from one of the states that, of the 4 that have no statutory minimum for marriage, also called child marriage, if you're providing a photo of like a stereotypical bumpkin-y, like California person, because California is one of those states, you should also be providing context for that. Just like if you were using a photo from somewhere in Appalachia, you would provide context for that, because the context does inform the rest of the story. So whether it's a photo that is, you know, showing another part of the world and othering this, or if it's showing folks from our own country, we can't other it. So I'm asking if you're providing context, not whether or not you use photos from the US. Thank you.
Yes, this is a very good question, and I also think it's really important. Yeah, we do our best to explain the situation here in the United States, and that is sort of how we the climax of that particular subject matter is really pointing out how it happens at home. And yes, but thank you for that.
Any other questions or comments for Saving Jane? I would suggest that y'all also describe other services that you have through Saving Jane? Can you explain the other services? This is me asking the other services that is provided by Saving Jane.
Well,
More than, go ahead, Thomas.
Our education program and our prevention programs is something that, that is our primary prevention service. I'll let Kathyann talk about more about what Saving Jane does.
Thank you, Thomas. So some of the other services we have at Saving Jane is part of our prevention around educating college students about what does human trafficking looks like on campus. And we have an app for that. And we partner with Florida State University. We're using their curriculum, which is about 12 hours long. And we kind of introduce that into colleges today. And some of the other services we have when we do workshops here in New York City, we provide it in Spanish as well. So I don't know if Thomas, you want to speak to that. We have had quite a lot of requests of having our material translate into Spanish.
Yeah, I recently did a workshop in Spanish and in English. We had a presenter translating in Spanish. It was fantastic. It was just one of the most, one of the things that when I talk to the DA's office and judges, it really is immigrant communities that are so highly at risk in our community for trafficking. And I know that out in Staten Island, there's really an epidemic, but it is primarily in the immigrant community.
Any other questions or comments? All right.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Quick comment, just I think maybe to wrap up, and I think definitely we all understand the importance. By the way, I'm Oded Levenstein from Saving Jane. What we offer, and we already basically been doing that, and Thomas touched on it for several years now, is basically we have a workshop that basically it's roughly 2-hour workshop in person. Thomas and other instructors are basically we coordinate with school. And what you saw kind of a flavor of it, and hopefully in the next meeting, I think on the 27th, we'll be able to show more details. Basically, Thomas is working with the students about the history as it presented and going into the risk and some prevention skills. But all that is basically an in-person workshop where it's centered, that comic book, and the students are receiving actually a copy of that book as part of the workshop they can take with them and keep and reference back. So this is something we are doing with schools, as I said, across the country. New York City definitely is our main destination for delivering those workshops.
The contact information is on the screen, Rosa, but if somebody could put it in the chat, please do. Could you stop sharing, please? Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you for coming. And I can't scan, I'm on my phone. Okay, I'm gonna ask them to put it in the chat, their contact information, no problem. And then I can, if they email me, I'll send it for you. All right, awesome. All right, so thank you, Kathyann, Thomas, and Oded. We're gonna go move to our next agenda item. All right, so Secret Jennifer Ferry. So before I give the floor to Anthony Settles, Anthony, I should, since the live stream started late, we was having technical difficulties. I would like to go back to some of the important points regarding school leadership team. I think you should do that before we talk about preparing for next school year.
Sure.
All right, so I'm gonna go back.
Yeah.
Let me stop sharing and then let me put it where I want it to be. And I want to let members know, after a certain point, we're going to live stream because we have to make stop live streaming because we have to make an announcement. We need to share something with you. So just stay on. We're not going to adjourn the meeting after, doing close of comments, but the live stream will be shut down and then we need to have a discussion. I'm sorry. I'm trying to. Okay. Sharing. So we don't have to piece the beginning of the meeting that people miss. June, every PA, PTA, and President's Council if they have proposed budget for June. This should be passed in the June meeting, and in September, reviewing the proposed budget and making amendments, leaving it the same, but also gives a chance for the new parents to see what the proposed budget is for the school year. As per Chancellor's regulations, this should be done for your June PA-PTA meeting. Also, the annual financial report, everyone who has a bank account, that means PA-PTAs all must have a bank account. In order to fundraise, it's mandated by the Chancellor's regulations, and those President's Council who have bank accounts, now it's time for the annual financial report, which is due in June. And it must be filed if you're a President's Council in the superintendent's office, if you're a PA-PTA, the principal's office. School leadership team, June. This is the month where you're filling out your annual evaluation form. I don't know if you could find it, Charlene. Anthony put it in the chat. You could put it in the chat for the live stream, the actual link, but this form can be found in the Chancellor's regulations. A655 in regards to the principal's annual assessment should be filled out by everyone on the team, of course, except for the principal. Where it says parent representative, you're crossing that out, putting constituency group. Same thing for the second paragraph, which repeats, which I don't understand. Constituency group. Make your comments. Where it says parent staff name, you're going to put your constituency group. And when it says signature and date, you're just going to put the date because this is supposed to be anonymous. It's collected and it's sent to the district office via your family leadership coordinator. I have the members put it in an envelope and then put it in the inter-office envelope to the superintendent's office. So this is supposed to be anonymous and all team members should be filling this out besides, not just the parent. Okay. CPI Perky Group, I'm going to real quick again to give some highlights, and I'm going to go to the next one. This is out, the high-level timeline for the district comprehension plan for next school year and the high-level timeline for the comprehension education plan. DCEP by the DLTs, CEP by the SLTs. So June 14th, the CEP draft submission is due. Also on June 14th, the language allocation policy, the language translation interpretation plan for parents. Your application for 24-25 Title III is due. And July 12th, the budget, the school must submit their budget and the alignment of their budget to their CEPs, to their superintendents. And the district level, July 31st, superintendents will complete the 23-24 district comprehension education plan self-assessment and submit the preliminary 24-25 DCEP for Central for review. If you notice, I didn't mention the CEP. You should be working on this year's CEP for next year. already, and that's draft submission is due in June 14th, like I said earlier. And September 6th, superintendents will receive feedback on their preliminary 24-25 district comprehensive plan. There's a revived SOT. They revised the SOT monthly calendar to include links and resources. So another form of support besides inputting your SOT's attendance sheet, agendas, minutes, and any other documentation that's related. The same thing with the Title I. Every month you're submitting, if you're a Title I school, you're going to submit your agenda, your minutes, your attendance sheet, and any other documentation that corresponding to that meeting should be being already started uploading them into the iPlan. And that's because the state is ramping up their audits, quality review on SOTs and Title Is, and make sure that the state is in compliance. District SOT training was discussed also again earlier, to be done earlier than later, encouraging district teams to do this in October, November, the latest. Okay, we went over the committees. Again, we strongly oppose the the citywide leadership team. And I'm going to stop sharing from there. Those are the important updates, especially while we arrive at the end. Anthony, you can now have the floor.
I'm sorry, I was clearing my throat. I wasn't trying to interrupt you, Shirley.
Oh, no, I didn't even take it that way. I'm busy hearing music in my ear anyway, so
Hello, everybody. I hope you're all doing well. I first off want to say happy Father's Day to all the fathers in the room, and happy Father's Day to the fathers who are not in the room, as well as to anyone who is a father figure to any of our children. I'm a proud father figure to an incredible number of nieces and nephews, and now grandnieces and nephews. And so the broods keep growing between me and my husband's families. So happy Father's Day. Also, I want to say happy Eid al-Adha to anyone, as well as happy Juneteenth. Those are the big events this year, this month. So as Shirley was saying, and I think this is really important for all of us to take note of as we're coming down to the end of the year and thinking all the things that we got to close out, but we should also start to think of the things that we need to open up for next year. So I know I talked about this last month, June's transfer of records, and hopefully you have been encouraging your PAs and PTAs in your districts and in your boroughs to actually have that transfer of records. It is so important. All those things that Shirley just talked about, they should all, particularly that budget and your financial reports, all of those things should be literally slid across the table to the incoming executive board. Even if you are part of that incoming executive board, you want to slide it to yourself, metaphorically as well as literally, because you want to be able to see, I think, a number of things. You want to be able to assess your year. You want your PAs and PTAs to be able to assess their year. As a President's Council, what worked? What didn't work? What was a high cost of things and what was a low cost of things? Did you work with a vendor who was troublesome? Is that a vendor you want to work with next year? Did you learn of a particular external partnership that might be useful for your schools and your districts? I think that's as President's Councils, that's what you should be focused on. Reviewing your own bylaws, whether you're at that time, 2 to 3 years, where you are required to review and update your bylaws, or you found something in your bylaws that just didn't work. This is the time of year where you want to take a good, thorough look at your bylaws and then make sure that they're going to work for you next year as best they can. We can't always anticipate everything, but we should be able to take the lessons that we've learned this year and apply them to next year. So those are That's kind of the thing that I really want to emphasize with you. Saving Jane was like a very, very, I was compelled. I was glued to this screen. And even when I'm getting messages and emails coming in while we're gathered together, I let those go because I thought this was such a good presentation and good for me to know, personally as well as professionally. But you've got organizations in your districts, and there are organizations across the city whom you should be tapping into. This is the time of year where you can talk to one another still, or talk to folks in your districts and find out what external partnerships should we cultivate to address issues that are in our communities. And how do we bring that to our schools next year? This is that kind of thing that you want to engage yourselves in. I also want to make this plug in terms of, I'm going to go back a bit to the records that Shirley was talking about. You know, not everybody knows how to put together a budget. And you might want to think about how you can support your schools that need to put together budgets. I'm going to assume, I know what they say about assuming, but I'm going to presume, how about that? I'm going to presume that you guys are the experts on all of those things because you're highly successful in knowing about them and implementing a budget in your own PAs and PTAs. Really want you to start sharing that information with the PAs and PTAs in your districts. Don't assume that people know how to put together a budget. Don't assume that people know how to pass, you know, after they get the budget, what to do with the budget. Don't assume that people know how to review and revise a budget based on assessments that they're conducting, right? So really, I think that is an extremely important element. I don't think that I have been as successful in my role in helping people to understand how vitally important the transfer of records actually is to the success of an incoming executive board, right? I don't think that I've really been that successful. I've stressed it, I've done it, but I don't think that we've been really successful in that regard. This singular event that the regulation requires is the jumping point for success, for headache, for heartache, and for failure. All of those things. Because if one of those things, if that transfer of records doesn't happen, then there's other three things do happen: headache, heartache, and failure. Right? You're setting up your successors for failure. In essence, you're setting up your students for failure, your families for failure when it comes to the resources that you could be bringing to your schools. I'm going to piggyback on something the Chancellor said. In over 20 years, I've seen this play out time and time again. Adults get in the way of success of PAs and PTAs. Right? I'm going to say that again. Adults get in the way of success of PAs and PTAs. You don't have to like someone to work with someone, because we do it every day. There are tons of people we don't like, but we have to work with them, and we learn to work with them as best we can. That happens even in PAs and PTAs, whether it is you working with another member of your executive board, or whether it's working with an administrator, or whether it's working with a teacher, or working with other school staff or district staff, you still have to work with them. And I always want people to keep in mind why you're doing what you're doing. You're doing what you're doing for that student in your school, that student in your district that is struggling the most, right? The student that is struggling the most, that's why you're doing what you're doing. If our schools didn't need the additional support, what would you wind up doing? You'd just be sitting there. There wouldn't be a call to action. But the call to action is to help a child who's struggling in your school. And how you do that by supporting the school. I also want you to think, or help your PAs and PTAs to think as we're moving into summer, moving into next year. Where is the focus of your PAPTA's fundraising? Where is it going to go to at the end of the year? Who is it helping on the broader spectrum of your school communities? I've worked with school communities where 80 to 90% of fundraising went to students and families who are leaving the schools at the end of the year. And then people wonder why there's nobody around to pick up or get elected next year, why people don't come out. Because if I were a parent, and you know this, right? If I were a parent and I wanted to do this, but I didn't see anybody supporting my kid's grade, I'll wait till my kid is in the exiting grade. Then I get involved. And we see that over and over again. So try to look at the total picture of the school and where the school is going to need the support. And then that's where you want to start to delegate where your fundraising is going to go. I think the summer can be a great time to do some great strategic planning, looking at, and also to have some preliminary conversations with your school administrators. So, or superintendents in the districts. But I really do think this is that time where you start to look at and review your whole year to say, this worked here, that worked there. This was a great group to bring in. They were not so good. This other group over here wanted to come in, but we couldn't get them in. How can we get them in next year? These are the things that you want to start thinking about. And again, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. Do our bylaws work? First and foremost, are our bylaws in conformity to A660? Do they comply to A660, or are they out of compliance to A660? Is this that time? Is this that 2 or 3 year period where you're required to review your bylaws and update them and amend them? Or do you just notice something that didn't work well because of the bylaws? Those are the things that you should be thinking about. And as seasoned parent leaders in your schools, how do you prepare for your association's future and future leaders? Who are you bringing along with you who can then succeed you? You've had a great example in Shirley, knowledgeable, caring, dedicated, decisive, and open to new ideas. Great leadership skills. Her example should be inspiring somebody to step into her shoes as she exits this stage. And so I just personally want to say, Shirley, it's been great working with you. We've had our differences from time to time, but we always figured out a way to come to some center point where we could at least stand and be respectful and find some agreement on many things. But I think most importantly, we stood together respectfully in each other's presence, whether it was on Zoom or whether we were meeting in person, to figure things out to make CPAC a better place to be. So I want to say thank you to you for all of the work that you've done. Randy, I say thank you to you as well. We go back and forth on a lot of things, but I love the way you challenge me to be a better, knowledgeable person. And I thank all of you for all of that. But I also think in turn and thank not only each other, but thank the PAs and PTAs who come to your President's Council's meetings time and time again. You don't know, or you may not know, how valuable a resource you really are to them. And you have been a valuable resource to me. Your questions to me make me think, even on days when I don't want to think. But it's always been a great joy to be in this space with you and to work with you. And hopefully I've been able to share, as I've always said, right? 1 or 2 things about a thing or two that I actually do know. So Shirley, if there are questions that people want, that I'm open to answering, or doing my best to answer as many questions as we have time for.
Any questions for Mr. Settle regarding preparing for the next school year? And if you do think of them, of course, you can always send it to him and CPAC if you like. I'm just going to remind, they're going to look like we're going to end the meeting, but we're not ending the meeting. We're just going to say goodbye to the live stream after I, wrap up the slides. So don't go off the platform, members. Thank you. Yeah, I'm still here till October, so we could.
I know.
No, I'm not you.
I know,
I'm
but you're
responding
closing
to
out.
the chat.
Yeah, we're closing
Yeah,
out the
we're
school
closing
year.
out the school year. Yes. So we thank everybody, all leaders, and not just parent leaders with titles, all parents,
Yeah.
right? For this, because this, I don't know if you're going to agree, been a very difficult, or I shouldn't say difficult, more challenging, year than normal, regardless of outside influences, inside influences. It's been a little bit more challenging this year. So, but hopefully that's also a reason why we should be continually preparing for the next school year, and take the questions and challenges and solidify them to minimize them for the next school year. But I'm gonna go and share my slides because I don't see any other questions.
Something.
Go ahead, Brandy.
It's just for planning for the next school year. So what you can do is you can get a calendar and you can give it to your PTAs or ask them to bring a calendar and share with them the CEC meeting dates, your upcoming President's Council meeting dates, the New York State testing dates, and the school calendar, and put those dates all on the calendar so all your schools know not to plan events on those days. In my district, our superintendent lets the principals know that she would like them to not have any kind of events, whether it's parent, community, or school, on the nights of President's Council or CEC meetings. So it doesn't prevent a parent leader from maybe attending a show in their child's school while they're supposed to be doing a parent leadership meeting. So we have that in our district, and we share everything. We work closely with our CECs on dates and everything. So I have this calendar, I get it from Class Act. We use them for pictures. And they actually, since the school calendar came out early, they put the dates of the school calendar in the calendar itself. So it's amazing that we have that. And then I just highlight when there's no school, I highlight parent teacher conferences, I put my PTA meeting dates in there. So when I have my President's Council meeting tonight, I put all that information in there for them. So when they come, and they also bring me their PTA certifications, their minutes, their proposed budgets, their Title I guidance policy, their consultation forms, everything. So we have it in one place. We ask them to bring 2 copies. They leave it with our FLC and our President's Council. So we have good record keeping. Everything's great on a flash drive or something, but they could break. So having paper copies on file also makes it easier. And if June transfer of records shouldn't happen, we're able to help out and support them. But we want to make sure that the June transfer records happen and make sure you have everything given, including passwords. Passwords are included in that too. So make sure you share that as well. And then while I'm here, I want to say thank you to Shirley because she is graduating out and she will be here until October, but June 30th officially, she's no longer a public school parent. And I want to wish her and her daughter the best of luck on all their future endeavors. And 3 years of co-chair with Shirley has been the best 3 years. And we agree to disagree on things, but we built a relationship and there's no one else I'd rather be a co-chair with. So thank you so much, Shirley.
Yeah, refuse to wait till October. Oh my God.
June, you got to do the official June. And I also want to thank all the parent leaders, all the President's Council presidents, representatives that have served this year, have served in the past, that may be graduating out or moving on to middle school or high school. Please stay involved in your children's school. You know how rewarding and thankful and less this can be, but it is rewarding when you have the kids that like see you and they're like, oh, that's the ice cream lady, or mommy, that's the snack sale lady, or something. It really does make you feel good. So please keep continuing to advocate for your children and get involved and get other parents to get involved. So to all the PAs, PTAs, Title I, SLTs, presidents, councils, everyone. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. The next is our next general membership meeting is scheduled for August 8th, 2024, July. We're taking a break. All right, let's skip that real quick. Father's Day. That should have been at the end. Father's Day, happy Father's Day for everybody. Flag Day is June 14th for those who celebrate and that flag, share the flags. Those who celebrate Eid al-Adha, happy Eid, June 2. So let me go back. So that's the 17th, and there's no school. Then celebrating Juneteenth, that is June 19th. There's no school either. Enjoy your happy summer holidays, and that's it for things. So I'm going to stop the live stream now.